Hello everyone and welcome to yet another Ritualist video from me. I wanted to make a more separate video from the guide itself because there is a lot of talk about the Ritualist I think that I can make and currently record. A lot of rambling, so I don't really intend to edit this video as a disclaimer, so enjoy some, bit of a mistakes in it and whatnot. But I did wish to talk about the Ritualist and some sort of, thoughts on the Ritualist and sort of hopes for the Ritualist, and in what senses they could possibly still adjust a couple of things while, kind of obviously want to talk about the positives and some of the negatives, if I may say it negative in a way. Obviously it's very subjective in a sense, but I think there is still some, how to say, kind of not exactly adjustments that I wish for, but some possible changes that they could take as a suggestion. But there are definitely a couple of things that I wish it would change to a better state for the Ritualist, because it will be really, really cool in my opinion if they would make some changes to it. So this video is mainly unscripted. I have a couple of bullet points really just to know what I'm talking about exactly, instead of just circling around like I do most of the times, because I tend to do that. First of all, then let's talk about Lingering Spirits. Itself, the trait as it is now is great. The sort of buffs that you get from it is definitely great. And I know that probably the damage part will be nerfed to an extent, because I feel like that the DPS Ritualist is a bit overperforming. I mean, not the DPS one exactly, but the quick DPS one is almost basically equal to the pure DPS one, which is, I feel like, not something that exactly should be, but it's also like really up to the question of why it shouldn't be. But I don't really play the quickness DPS one, neither the DPS one. I'm more of a, support enjoyer that, I played Heal Chrono, Heal Firebrand. I tried a couple of other healers like Heal Tempest in the past. The only thing I never tried was Druid because I hate Ranger. Which might be surprising for some people, but I do genuinely just hate Ranger as it is existing in Guild Wars 2, but that's not for this topic. Surprise, surprise. However, I tried a couple of support and I love it, and I love most of them. Heal Chrono is also really fun to play, and it's really strong in my opinion. If I can be truthful, it might be a bit too strong, but to a certain extent it is balanced the way it is. However, its utilities are insanely good, and I think its strength is simply coming from that, which is not something you could really change in my opinion, so it is what it is. Now, I would say that while I'm trying to talk about Lingering Spirits, that I really enjoy how Ritualist is now as well already, the support one of course again. And it's really fun. It has its really sort of different playstyle compared to if you would try to play a Scourge or something. Regardless, that, oh well, it doesn't have the shades anymore, or it just has spirits. Well, while it's kind of true, it's also very different though. The Lingering Spirits part, again, to go back to that, I really love the buffs and the change they did to the Lingering Spirits. In terms of like, the old, if you haven't played the beta or didn't try the Elite Spec beta a couple of months ago when they did it, the Lingering Spirits originally just, all it did was that it changed the Spirits auto attack interval from 3 seconds to 2 seconds and made the Spirits linger, which to an extent was kind of nice, but only the Lingering Spirits part, which is not the trait name itself that I'm meaning, but the fact that the Spirits lingered, so they existed outside of your Shroud. Just to mention as a context as well, in my opinion, it didn't really make much sense either, because you could not use your Rupture skills, because before the release of Visions of Eternity, the Innervate skills were called Rupture skills, which was, instead of Innervate, it was Rupture Anguish, which meant that it basically destroyed the spirits immediately when you use these skills, which made sense to nobody, honestly. But that was changed, so I'm very happy about that. The Innervate skills actually work so much better in terms of like synergy as well with the Ritualist. But it could be sort of further enhanced, which I will try to talk about as well. But the inner skills are a extremely good step to the right direction that the rituals could be. Again, by the way, before anyone misunderstands, I'm not wishing for the rituals to be some extremely OP, top of the top, you know, healing, heal support, booner, everything that it can do. Obviously, that's not what I'm asking for. I'm simply trying to do this video in the sense of like suggesting just a couple of ideas that maybe the devs could take. That I've been thinking about. Obviously, I am not a game designer. I don't know this. I'm not a balancing developer or anything about skills as such. They are merely ideas, but I'm trying to think up ideas that could be possibly not so broken or could be still developed in the sense that that's a cool idea that could work, but they have to adjust the numbers and whatnot, you know. So one thing, again, going back to the lingering spirits, to the point of the start, that I think lingering spirits, the fact that the spirits linger, should be baseline to the ritualist. And while this will be tied into a couple of ideas I have, I kind of feel like it should be baseline because it's just simply what it feels right for the ritualist. If you haven't played Guild Wars 1, which is where the ritualist is from, at least where the idea comes from, they also played with spirits, but they were always lingering. You had no shroud and such, of course, in that game for the ritualist. Instead, you were just summoning them, and they had either a clear X amount of seconds they were alive for, or they did certain array of effect that made them destroy themselves very slowly, like soaking up damage instead of some other people and such, and they were taking the damage and such. Now, I think that they really should make it like baseline, either into just the ritualist and just have it completely by default at it, or maybe just try to give it to charged souls if they really want to put it to a close to Grandmaster part, you know, because I know that sometimes there are some parts that sort of when you unlock the elite spec, certain things shouldn't be immediately at the start or like the first selection, obviously, because it can be strong, and I can completely understand that. However, if they would make it that they don't linger for so long, but I think the sweet spot will be 15 seconds, which I will have some ideas for. I think they could make it that they basically drain 2% life force per spirit. And if you have 100%, you could make or manage a bare minimum of 15 seconds, technically speaking, because 60% will be 10 seconds of drain. Now to propose an idea that I sort of had that could possibly drastically change the ritualist, however. I'm not sure how in-depth it will change the ritualist, but the idea I had was that it's a little bit hard to talk about it in a sense because a lot of things with ritualist and some ideas kind of connected together, but just kind of hear me out with this. I think that Ritual Shroud, I still keep calling it a Spirit Shroud. Ritual Shroud shouldn't be a second health bar. It should be something you still activate, but it should be closer to something like a Harbinger Shroud. Of course, without the stink or anything, but to me, the Ritual Shroud itself doesn't make too much sense as a second health bar that you go into and soak up damage. I genuinely think that the Ritual Shroud should be more of a resource bar than a second health bar. And in a way, the reason I think it is because it doesn't make much sense, because if you are withstanding, like, you know, for example, you go into a AoE, like let's say you're fighting Bone Skinner, you know, and after a while the AoE ticking damage can be quite extreme. You know, let's say that you want to activate your spirits, you know, but you want to kind of linger in it for a little bit further. So you kind of go in there, you know, spawn your preservation, do the, well, Anguish will be there too, you know, and you like keep taking damage, you know. It's not just the life force that bothers, you know, that you take. The problem basically is that in some instances, which I get it, it's like niche, but it makes no sense that you want to be in Shroud and then it just soaks up all the damage and then pops you out of it. It's basically should be your resource to simply summon your spirits. You are a ritualist. You are not a shroud user in that sense. And I don't think the shroud itself as a second health bar really makes much sense. And I get it. I understand the argument that, you know, people would say that, oh, but then it's just like a scourge or like a harbinger. Yeah, I get that, but technically you could say the same about harbinger versus scourge as well. That instead of them being, you know, a shroud user with a second health bar like the reaper or the core necro, it still would work better for ritualists if it would be a resource bar. And from there, I actually had ideas too that they could work on that more, because they could implement more trait styles where you could have different traits do something more to certain type of spirit that you have, that simply increases the drain by a couple of percentage. Like, let's say that instead of draining 2%, you know, for that one specific spirit, that spirit will drain your life force by 4%, depending on how strong the trait line is. And then suddenly you have two spirits that drain 2%, and then one spirit that drains 4%, for example. Well, it sounds a little bit weird, but that will still make it so that you are around the sweet spot of having each spirit up together for about between 15 to 12 seconds still. Like, it would still adjust there, which is, I think, just the sweet spot to not be super passive. Because I feel like Lingering Spirits right now, with the maximum 30 seconds increase, is great, but I feel like it is heavily wasted. Like, I simply feel like there is no point having them out for a maximum of basically 30 seconds, because it's completely pointless. It's just wasted. The entire duration is wasted. Like, sometimes, even when I am on a more chill fight, I will still have to resummon the spirits for certain boons to happen. Like, Anguish is basically spent almost constantly for the might and everything it can do, like the might and fury, and so are these. Like, each spirit will be used anyway. Every time you go back into Shroud, it will be resummoned anyway, because, you know, these give the basically resolution, fury, might, you know, they all give it. Like, I will be always spamming Anguish as much as I can for just the might alone, along with the innervate skill. Wanderlust will be always there for basically the permanent fury as well, so it can even stack it further. Even though technically Innervate Anguish can already stack fury to maximum, because you, especially with Alacrity, you will have less cooldown compared to the duration. By the way, the tooltips are still not refreshing in like actual duration, which I hope to be fixed, because it very much confuses a couple of people occasionally. But basically, I don't see the point of Lingering Spirits currently being that long of a duration either. Even for DPS, like, if you check the rotation, you are constantly resummoning all of your spirits by like every 10-second rotation. So I feel like there is no point having like not Shroud, but a Lingering Spirits further than 12 to 15 seconds. Which is why I'm sort of proposing the idea that, again, spirits should be default. And by default, they should drain 2% your life force every single second altogether. And then just have life force as a resource instead of being a second health bar, because it makes no sense to have it as a second health bar, in my opinion. It's cool that, like, oh yeah, I can soak up damage with it. But why? Like, you already have a crap load of healing, even to yourself. You actually heal way more for other people. But it makes so much more sense to be actually a resource for your spirits and use it creatively, perhaps for certain traits where your spirits do something extra. Like, let's say, you know, I had the idea, let's say that if they put Lingering Spirits default, and this is like Lingering Spirits here, or something different called, obviously, then let's say that the buffs stay here, or maybe this only affects your preservation specifically, and then it says that your preservation, so you have to know that your preservation does this every 3-second healing. It's almost like a passive regeneration in a sense, because it's not every second, it's every 3 seconds. Basically, every time it attacks, it heals you for like 1.5k healing, with enough healing power, of course, if you're a healer. Let's say that I know that for you it's basically infinite range, because it's it's based on the spirit attacking, so you get healed from it. But let's say that it makes the spirit do this effect for every ally in like a 600 range. And so you have another just passive regen effect just pulsing from the spirit. And in that case, your preservation, for example, goes from 2% life force drain to 3 or 4%, depending how much they want to. Like, they could even make it that passive heal suddenly heals a little bit more as well. Like it increases that default healing too, which I don't think they would really do. I don't think it should either, but you know, I'm just kind of throwing a couple of ideas there too. And you know, there could be some passive like damaging one, like spirit strength. It could make it so that, let's say, this one actually will make your anguish attack basically double faster. Obviously, it could be that it is less damage, because I feel like this will be nerfed as well. And makes it attack double, but your anguish will now also drain life force much faster. So you now either stuck with the fact that you only want to use Wanderlust and Anguish to manage it better. You know, it kind of gives this resource management a little bit further into the spec as well, because currently you really don't have to think about it. Like your Shroud is just almost permanently maximum anyway, because whatever you do, like all these skills just give you free life force, which is great, by the way, and I hope that stays because it feels right with it. But that's why I am proposing this sort of idea that it could be so much better, because currently I feel like that as a Ritualist you have a little bit of a too much easy job with it, in a sense. Not because it's like, oh, it's like great healing and whatnot. I'm just saying that like you have so little to do in it in a way, and I wouldn't mind in a way just this little resource management part to it. Not saying that extreme, you know, where you're like sweating over it. Don't misunderstand the idea. I'm just saying that, you know, it kind of pops your life force drain a little bit further with like 1-2 extra %. So you know that you have to, like, you know, use a couple of skills a bit further. But even then, spirits should exist up to like 15 seconds, in my opinion, regardless of draining your you know, life force. And of course, obviously, either with such change, they should still give you a new skill here, a F5, for simply being able to just cancel and dismiss your spirits, like all of them, just altogether all of them. I don't think there should be like an individual one where you just like pick which one you want to destroy. Like that's a bit over the top, in my opinion. There should be just simply a dismiss all your spirits skill that you can, you know, bind to a key here, and then you just uses it, and this all your spirits gone, and your lingering spirits effect will just stop. You know, they just stop draining your effect, because currently, even in its current state, lingering spirits actually still drains your let me just show you, it will still drain your life force. Even if you do the trick where you mount up so they get dismissed, they still drain your life force. You can't do anything about this. Like, I still have some regen for the life force. Actually, wait, that's actually interesting. They actually stop draining it, but they usually still keep completely the life force drain, just like right now. And I'm not really sure why does that stop there. Or am I just passively outdoing? It might be that I'm simply outdoing with eternal life. Actually, I kind of have, yeah. Basically, eternal life stops it when you are outside of combat mostly. But they basically keep draining your life force even here when you're out of, you know, they are not summoned or like sort of visually dismissed with a mount up. But yeah, it basically just doesn't work properly, and we definitely need a new key to just simply dismiss all the spirits. Again, this is trying to be about lingering spirits in a way, but also proposing ideas for just the Shroud itself, you know, that it should be just a resource where you can still go into it, but it works like more like Harbinger, you know, where you don't have a second health bar and it doesn't defend you. It could be that maybe it just gives you a passive, like, unique buff only on you, where your damage or condition damage you take together is like reduced by like 10 to 15 seconds, 10 to 15%. And you know, while in Shroud you take a little bit less damage because you are very much not exactly stuck in it, because you can, you know, go get out of it at any moment. But if you want to like play around the spirits, it gives you just a little bit of self defense for just a minimal time, so you can summon a couple of spirits and like play around with your own cooldowns. Because currently, even right now, if you play with lingering spirits, you have such a good freedom to be either outside or still inside of Ritualist Shroud to summon spirits, that it just feels really fun. Actually, like I feel really free with how I can play this. Like currently, and I want to keep that. I want to keep that for Ritualists, because I like, unlike in the beta where you had to do this like strict rotation, like this in and out of Ritualist Shroud, that was feeling so bad. It was like I'm not even healing, I'm just doing a tight rotation just to keep up boons. And that felt super bad. And of course, I understand that we cannot do like permanent stability really anymore. Sort of close almost, with some cooldowns and cooldown reduction, but not exactly there, because there will be some gaps between. But it's not like you need stability to be permanent on the group. You want it situationally, which you have great access to. And actually going from there, there is another thing I wanted to mention, which is mainly that I not exactly happy in a sense that some of your like innervate skills are happening on the spirit. I know it's a little bit unfair and might be too strong to suggest, but I kind of still wish it will be positioned on the Ritualist itself instead of on the spirit, because like you don't exactly have such a fast repositioning chances. Once you leave Shroud, even with basically, you know, alacrity, you have like 7.5 seconds to wait to reposition your spirits. You cannot do anything, because both your summons, like both your summons and then your teleportation is tied to your Shroud. You cannot reposition your spirits or anything, and even your bubble is based on the spirit, which I mentioned before that it simply shouldn't be, because your spirits have for some reason this like global on the map kind of like positioning around you. Like no matter where you are facing, these spirits will be always like in that position compared to you. Like if I teleport like this way and I'm facing that way, they will be behind me. Even if I go this way, you know, they will be in front of me in that case, because they just always take that position around me. Not sure what is the reason for that or how to that, because if they will be like beside me or something, and then like Anguish being in front of me and then Wanderlust next to me and Preservation next to me or something like that, I could understand to position technically position or aim your like bubble a little bit better with that, because anywhere you go compared to your position and your facing and angles, you would know where your preservation will be. But sometimes, like actually a good example yesterday when I did Dagda, you know, the Cosmic Observatory Strike, you know that Dagda does this like spinning move where it just throws projectiles everywhere. You can block it with basically bubbles, or like projectile destroying bubbles. And yesterday I actually tried to do that, and twice out of that I completely failed, because I teleported in Dagda and then Preservation was for some reason like here behind me, and Dagda was like somewhere here in front of me, and the bubble was just like this. Like here, and then like half of the thing basically still hit half of the squad, and I was obviously not angry or anything. It's like whatever, but it's a little bit just, it kind of just feels bad that you can't properly position it, because you just simply sometimes don't know where your preservation end up around you. Sometimes it's completely behind you because you teleport like that, and I don't necessarily want to be inside the boss in some means, you know, because sometimes when you teleport accidentally inside the boss, like on Whisper of Jormag, when the chains are up, then you're gonna get shredded by the chains immediately. Like you're gonna just insta die there. So you know, like obviously that part doesn't need a bubble. I'm not saying that, but I'm just making an example. You know, that if you sometimes teleport too much into the boss hitbox, then you can get hit by certain attacks multiple times and can just shred you immediately to like downstate or like just outright kill you. So I do really wish that the bubble from the preservation will be when you do summon spirits will be based on you and not on the preservation itself. Like, and also sometimes the bubble just doesn't seem to happen for whatever reason. I don't know what's the thing behind it. I'm not sure if it's just visually not happening or it's actually not happening. I have not been able to test that because it's really hard to catch. Like, it's not super common, but it does happen quite frequently enough that I notice it, that it's simply the bubble is not there. And that actually happened on strikes too, where I really needed it. And actually, that's why I feel like it's not doing the bubble actually, because I have teleported onto mobs and bosses before in certain strikes, or did certain things in the open world where I know that the mob does, like projectiles, and I did this move on them, and then there was no bubble. Like, again, there is no visual bubble like either, and it just didn't happen. And I'm not sure if this is happening because you do it too quickly before it could do the explosion heal, because now if I do it, the bubble should be up there, but I kind of wonder if I do it fast enough, then there will be no bubble. So I think that's very easy to replicate, by the way. In that case, so once you summon, which I do a lot, because you want to react with it. Like, I want to react with it, but I only have chance in Shroud, so I have to be in Shroud, put down the preservation, had to wait for the preservation to do this like explosion healing, and then do the summon sprays for it to actually do the bubble. And I appreciate the bubble, but it feels so inconvenient to use it. It's just bad a little bit. Especially for that like 4-second duration, it just feels so not paying out for what I had to go through to put that bubble down. It's a cool idea. I like it. There is no problem with that. I'm not wishing for it to be deleted because I enjoy that we have a bubble. But if you want something reliable, you can just use CPC, and it's like like 8 seconds, and you can actually put it wherever you want. And it's also feels like no, it's actually not. It's actually the same size, but obviously it takes up a utility slot, but it still just feels like a little bit of a waste, considering that you have to go into Shroud, and do the thing. Again, if I replicate this, it won't do the bubble for some reason. However, I still can't test it because there's no way to test projectiles here, unfortunately. I wish they would kind of do that. I might have to do that in the Fractal or something. In the Fractal lobby where you can summon the golem and test it there. Maybe it does some projectile attacks. But yeah, like timing it right with the Shroud, you have to be Shroud and you have to summon the Spirit too first to it, unless you have Lingering Spirits. Again, is why Lingering Spirits to me really cool, because I can pop now and I can do this, and it's guaranteed. Like, this is the fastest. That's why I'm saying and asking for Lingering Spirits to be default, just baseline in Ritualist. This is how it feels right, and just give us Life Force to be a resource bar, and simply just make the Shroud still, that it's for summoning the spirits and like doing these moves. But I do at least hope that they will change it, that it's actually positioned on the Ritualist and it's based on the Ritualist, and not like they should change it. It could have a very easy change, in my opinion, if it's not based on the preservation, for the sole reason that when you summon preservation, immediately use it, it won't do the bubble because it's casting this healing. And I feel like the bubble is also a casting. It's a skill on the preservation spirit itself to cast. And I feel like it's why it's basically not to, like, see, even here, I'm technically interrupting the very end of it. Like, it does the effect, there is the explosion, but it won't do the bubble because I'm too quick with it. It simply won't do the bubble. But if I wait an extra little, and now it will do the bubble, because you can see that it does this animation where it like raises up both of its arms again. So you basically interrupt the spirit, and that's just bad. Like, the innovation's cool because they are just an effect that like explodes around the spirit. But I also wish the innerate skills will be around you instead of the spirit itself. I understand, that they want to balance it, that like it's not too strong, but I feel like sort of taking away this positioning from you while a bunch of fights are quite heavily like wanting you to move around. Like, I struggled a bunch on, for example, okay, not necessarily a bunch, that's a bit of an over exaggeration, but Whisper of Jormag, for example, on the strike, where it like goes sometimes on the side and then just teleports back to the middle. It's kind of just meh, because I have to wait on Shroud because I know it's gonna go back to the middle, but I need to heal people and just spam a couple of boons and quickness on people by going to, you know, he's on the side and I have to go there and I'm just like, you know, slapping down this and anguish. I'm like, okay, that's cool, quickness is done, and then I have to wait in Shroud till he's in the middle, and then I teleport there, you know, so he's out, or my spirit's up around there again to do certain things when I want to press my innerweight skills. So let's see, what else did I want to talk about? Oh yeah, the range of the spirits. Again, if they keep it on the spirits, then at least make the effects of the innerweight skills I see that this has lesser range, which I don't exactly understand why, by the way. I really feel like these should have a bare minimum of 360, but I'm genuinely asking for a 480 range, like a 480 or a 450 range. Typically, I think it's more 480 than 50. But somewhere there will be what I would enjoy, because even just like you putting it down here and then the boss moves somewhere like here, you are already like so much on the edge, and then everyone is just like all around you. Even though they are trying to stack, some people will be like a little bit away, and if I press these skills here, I am already not affected by it, and I am again stuck outside of Ritualist Shroud in like many cases, you know, because I don't necessarily want to camp in Shroud just because, oh, I don't know when will some, you know, kind squad member or a subgroup member just walk away from me so much that they are just not inside this like 300 range anymore, because 300 range is really not that huge, honestly. Like basically the blast radius of this is the sorry, this is probably more visible, like that is this 300 range, effectively speaking, because that's the blast radius. Like what you see, the 240 is effectively the ring you see, that is the trigger. That is the range of your innerweight anguish and your innerweight wanderlust for your for these boons, for example, or even for these. I think I actually don't exactly know what is the range for those when you summon them. It doesn't really seem to say that much. 250 actually. Oh no, that is innerweight. Oh sorry, this one, the empowering spirits. Radius 300. Okay, 300. So that means if someone is outside of this little poison field range, they will not get your boons. And then your spirits, if they are already like somewhere here, like you can see even here my like shield blades, like if I'm just this far away, my squad members that are like slightly to my left will not get any of the boons anymore, and I cannot even just go back to Shroud anymore if I leave it to reposition it. No, I have to wait around a couple of seconds to replace it, which is, you know, I understand that it sounds like I'm just whining about it, like, oh, it's bow because it's like not infinite range. No, I'm talking about that because it's based on the spirit, and our positioning is not exactly the best in terms of like with the spirits, because the spirits are half of my boons. It feels a bit unjust to me that they have such a short range, such a short radius or around them to boon people when that's my job to do. Like if my job is basically shared between the spirits and my character itself that I'm controlling, I feel it's very much justified that I want to ask for a larger range to like a 480, because even 360 is very small still, regardless. Like I feel like baseline for most booners who do boons and have to do them quite frequently, they should have a bare minimum of 480 range. But at least, even if it's somewhat unique, because I'm not sure anymore which one is more baseline, even for like the weapon skills, like the weapon skills I kind of understand, because like it's fine. I don't mind the 300 range for the sole reason that it's me, it's around me, and it's almost instantaneous. But the spirits, they are just static there, and if I leave, I am stuck outside. I cannot reposition them by all means, because I have no access to either resummoning them and no spirit summons, which is also in Shroud. Like I can only reposition by being in Shroud. I have no other ways to reposition my summons to give boons. And if I'm just slightly away from them, like everyone else is with like my subgroup, then it just all goes into waste. And it's also hard to manage because I don't see the range. I do not know exactly if I am providing the booms or not exactly, because they just slightly went away or the boss suddenly repositioned. You know, good examples again like Whisper, or if you go into Fractal CMs, you're trying to do the what's it called, the Shattered Observatory, the first boss that you do when you have to do the anomalies on the little islands. Those go so quick if you have good DPS that you basically hop island over island by like every 5 to 6, 7 seconds, and you basically have almost no cooldowns. Maybe for Shroud you have, but like doing a second preservation to do stability for the anomalies to not be knocked off the islands, yeah, it just feels bad. So it's just it's still like, because of the repositioning, I'm not talking about like, you know, it should like affect me from here or the party or anything like the subgroup, but it definitely should be larger than just like, you know, like slightly beyond this. It should be a 450 or 480 range on the spirits, or like at least the spirit. I'm not talking about the things that happen on me, like the weapon spells. I'm genuinely just talking about the spirit's range, because repositioning them and relocating them is not exactly the most difficult thing, but you are stuck on a cooldown. You have no way to reposition them outside of Shroud, and if Shroud is on cooldown, you're stuck. It's not the end of the world, I'm not talking about that, but it definitely, I think, is justified to increase the range. So that's one of my hope and sort of dream, that they will increase the ranges on those. But apart from that, you know, again, the Lingering Spirits thing, the life force change to change it from like from an active, you know, soaking damage Shroud to just a resource bar, I think that could work well, because they could, again, just to go back on that topic, I feel like they could make more creative choices here with like certain picks where your spirits could be like, one spirit could tie it. Like I feel like Soul Twisting could be more of a DPS thing, where Lingering Spirits could be more of a preservation based Grandmaster trait, while Wielder's Boon could tie maybe one thing to your Wanderlust, that it does something around it. It just increases the Wanderlust, you know, drain to 3 or 4% instead of 2. And then your spirits will last for like 12 seconds, still around baseline. Should be lasting around that long, if you have 100% life force, of course. But then you could, you know, like, even if they increase it further, like 3 seconds, or like, sorry, 3% per second, then you can still play around with just using your skills to gain extra life force. Or way to deplete, you know, or like just unsummon or dismiss your spirits when you have to, if you want. Like, I wishing for the agency of to be able to control what my character can do, instead of having this minimal mass that Lingering Spirits is right now with some Ritualist, you know, kind of thing, but it just keeps draining your like life force. You know, you have no agency over like no control over it either, that to dismiss them, they just keep, you know, draining your life force to absolute nothingness in some cases, and it just, I don't know, I want more control over what I can do, because that's what it should be. You know, it just simply, I should be the one deciding what I want to do, and if I don't wish to do, then I just wanted to just stop it, have the agency to stop it. Then another kind of thing to talk about was, for example, Spirit's Remedy, that I'm not sure if I mentioned in the guide, I guess, because I rambled about it, but I think I did cut it out because it was just like 10 minutes of me rambling about it. But I'm actually generally don't remember anymore if I actually left it in there. But Spirit's Remedy, while I understand that our condition removal because of staff is actually quite alright, it's still not a Scourge. Honestly, actually Scourge has probably one of the most busted condition removal, honestly, on the entire spec, or you know, on Necro as a spec, because if you have the correct traits and even a correct relic and everything else to it, you actually have like almost like 15 condition cleanse like every 10 seconds. That's like insane. But here you have more like a burst of condition removal, where you kind of remove more like a batch of conditions on one spell or skill use, instead of like, you know, having a repeated one where you just keep sticking and like removing one, just like Weapon of Remedy, which is cool. But of course, it's kind of weak, because if you don't have Wielder's Boon, then it's kind of meh in a sense, because it just removes only 3 conditions. Like 1 condition per second for 3 seconds, which means 3 condition. Unfortunately, only unless for some reason it immediately removes 1 condition and then still exists for 3 seconds, then it will be 4 condition. I actually genuinely haven't tested that, which I may later, but not right now, because I don't want to, you know, really bother with this cutting the video and editing it together too much. But if they will make it that Spirit's Remedy is sort of merged together with at least Spirit's Gift, for example. Okay, so the reason I'm saying this is because Spirit's Remedy right now doesn't make much sense to me in PvE, because you have this in Word vs. Word, which I could see it working there, but it's already nerfed for Word vs. Word and PvP, because it just removes 1 condition per spirits, you know, or like whenever you summon a creature, which is, obviously way more if you have minions, because it says on a, you know, when you summon a creature, which is both minions and spirits. But if they would make it into Spirit's Gift, it will be more restricted to... Actually, it wouldn't be, sorry. Kind of stupid there, admitting it. I forgot that Spirit's Gift is also based, because they made Ritualist to react to your minions too, not just your spirits. It would still trigger on minions too, but it will remove like 1 condition per summons, basically. Because I don't see what's the reasoning behind Spirit's Remedy being a separate one, in the middle especially, when for support you are mandatory to take Empowering Spirits, for QDPS you also have to take Empowering Spirits, and in Word vs. Word you already nerf it to the point where it's just 1 condition per summoned creature, which you cannot really spam anyway. So then why do we have 2 in PvE when basically no PvE build uses this? There is no point in PvE to have Spirit's Remedy. So why is it not just in Spirit's Gift with a 1 condition removal per summoned creature? And I understand again that it could be a bit strong, because then you also heal, but I wouldn't mind that slight nerf on healing if they just make it so that you also remove a condition per summons, and they just have 1 condition removed per summons, and they have a good trait here that could work better with something else. Unfortunately, I do not have an idea right now, and I don't want to make up like random, you know, stupid ideas that just like either completely broken or just completely makes no sense either. But again, you know, with my sort of proposed idea that our life force could be just a you know, resource to the spirit summoning and whatnot, it could be related to that too, maybe, instead, which could work in like Word vs. Word or PvP or such, you know. Maybe actually even that could be something like that, where if you are in Shroud and while you are in Shroud, you basically take less damage, because I feel like these top ones are so... except for Wielder's Boon, because all 3 Grandmaster trait actually very cool by idea, but I want to talk about that too in a moment. But Wandering Spirits, I don't really understand this. I feel like at best maybe in PvP you would use it, but I feel like you still want explosive growth. Like, this is giving you 0 benefits. There is no benefits to this one. It's just that your spirits are always teleporting to you every time they attack, which just feels like, why? I don't get it. I'm sorry, if there is some very niche cool use for this outside of Word vs. Word perhaps, or something, or PvP, then I don't understand, because then the only reason I could see this is just like Word vs. Word or PvP, if like anyone actually touches this. But I don't really see the point to it, honestly. Spirit Strength, again, that's actually, in my opinion, pretty strong, and it could probably do more while being nerfed in terms of like effectiveness, but it could like interact with your spirits. I'm kind of that's what I'm missing, and that's why I like Lingering Spirits as well. It actually interacts with your spirit, but the rest kind of doesn't. Like, some of these do, like Spirit Strength does interact with your spirits in a sense. Not much is actually interacting with your spirits, apart from, again, Spirit's Gift, Spirit Strength, Empowering Spirits, and of course Lingering Spirits. They kind of, and maybe Explosive Growth, they kind of interact with it, and of course Spirit's Remedy as well. But in a sense that like like some of these are just basically passive like effectiveness. Like they do interact with the spirits, but it's more like, you know, just a, yeah, you're like, some spirits do more, you know, increase healing for moments for while you summon them and whatnot, but it's like, why? To me at least. Of course, in DP, I know for DPS one, this is used by it. Obviously, it's not that. But again, also Lingering Spirits should be, when I say that it will be greater as well for the Grandmaster traits, to mention that too, because I feel like Grandmaster trait normally should not deduct, but dictate what kind of playstyle you're trying to go with. Because I feel like that currently Lingering Spirit just basically takes the lead for me. I know that Soul Twisting is still strong, Wilder's Wound can be strong too, but I feel like right now number one, to me at least, is Lingering Spirits, and then right after it's Soul Twisting secondary, and then it's like Wilder's Wound is like nobody wants to use it possibly, because I feel like even in PvP or versus where you want your spirits out. You don't want to be in Shroud because there's no point. You're going to get shredded and your spirits just disappear anyway. Like, what's the point? Again, going back to the thing, it should be baseline. Like, spirits lingering should be baseline by all means. And these ones should have just a minor, tiny change to them, maybe. Like, the current middle so-called lingering spirits, which will be probably renamed in that case, should just stay with these boons that each spirits give you a different sort of self buff to you. You know, just like how preservation gives more, like gives you in the sense 20% extra healing increase to others, which is great, by the way. I love that. Please don't change that. It's not broken. I love it that Ritualist is more of a healing focus spec, and I love that because I miss that so much from Scourge. Like, Hail Scourge is great. I love Hail Scourge to this day, and I've been playing first Hail Scourge before Hail Scourge being a thing even. Like, I was probably among the first ones who tried to push this thing where Scourge could be a support healer. Unfortunately, we had no Alacrity at the time either, and only we only had like this like 10-man barrier, which I was really trying to focus on in a sense. But I mean, you can still do 10-man barrier, but I mean like that like trait line we had. Hold on, let me just show you real quick. You know, with Sand Savant, because it used to increase your like target cap from 5 to 10. You know, at the time before they like changed a lot of things. So yeah, like Wielder's Boon should be like obviously giving you a focus and more playstyle on your weapon spells, which are cool to use, by the way. And I wish I could do that too. Because sometimes I don't need that much extra healing. I love it, but I don't always need it because some places you just don't really need it. You just kind of need the boons and some just like passive healing to keep up regen, whatnot, you know. You don't need extreme healing. So sometimes even preservation is just an overkill in healing because of these, basically. And I wish simply that this will be just these buffs on you or for you, basically, and the Wielder's Boon will be just like, oh hey, if you want a more chill run and you want to focus on your weapon spells, then just do that. And I feel like Soul Twisting still should be something that could basically benefit both the DPS, which it does currently. I feel like I kind of know, because DPS actually still uses lingering spirits because you want the spirits to be around you outside of the spirit or outside of the Ritualist Shroud too. So basically, I think Soul Twisting is only really used by some of the other support builds, but it makes currently without lingering spirits, it makes your rotation super tight to go around, because, you know, again, if you pick this and then you summon things and then leave Shroud, they will be gone. There's no passive anything from that. There's no bonuses that you cannot innovate outside of Shroud, and that's why Lingering Spirits is great, because again, as I've been yapping about it, you know, for quite long, I like the agency and control that, for example, oh, I can't be in Ritual Shroud anymore, but I will leave it. But oh, look at it. I can use this to give stability quickly to the party, you know? Or if I have to, I can very quickly reposition my remaining spirits again and then just leave if I have to, instead of resummoning all three again, like I would normally have to without lingering spirits. So again, this is a very overarching thing that I'm trying to explain here, but Soul Twisting could be focusing on a different style of gameplay, while imagine that you could, like, the reason I'm saying that it could do something slightly different as well, while still keeping the sort of like double resummon, because so if lingering spirits are default, then you already have them out. So like, why would you want double summon? Well, you could still do some tricks with it, but they could also tie a spirit to it, like the previous ideas that maybe one of your spirits, like Wanderlust on this one, is just simply doing or pulsing something every 3 seconds or something, whatever idea you could make up, and then, you know, it just drains like extra 1-2% life force from the baseline 2% for the Wanderlust only, of course. You know, and then, like I mentioned, this could be preservation, this could be, or maybe this could be anguish, and this could be Wanderlust, you know, and just tie them, and then they just like change your playstyle. Because I feel like, again, that Grandmaster traits should be defining your playstyle, to dictate and define your playstyle that you want to play with, instead of just making one completely much more enjoyable and completely change of how the entire like Ritualist plays. Because currently that's what lingering spirits do to me. I feel like lingering spirits just literally baseline changes how Ritualist is, and when you swap to either these or these, you just lose that, and you now have like a much lesser version of what Ritualist can be. Hence I am wanting or wishing for lingering spirits, or for the spirits to linger, to be default. What else? Oh yeah, one mention, by the way, in case some people don't know or haven't noticed it, your Transfusion Chillblains doesn't work on you when you are in your Spirit Shroud. It's another reason why I wish that Spirit Shroud wouldn't be a Shroud where you have a second health bar, because it's kind of like funny that, you know, it's also supposed to be your self heal in the sense, which works for Scourge and for Harbinger, but not for Reaper, which you probably won't really use it unless you do some niche, I don't know, versus or some sort of PvP kind of, you know, build with it. But like this one just like don't work. Like even if I go in here, and you will see that, like, hold on, let me just bring up the chat. You will see that if I slap it down, there's no Chillblains. There's just like Spirit's Gift on me and then Preservation, because I summoned the Spirit and then Preservation healed me. So Chillblains don't activate on you, obviously, in this sense, because you are in a Shroud, and Chillblains is not a Ritualist based healing, which should be go over you, you know, like some of your like Ritualist healings will go over your own Ritualist Shroud and will heal your actual health bar. But it also feels so pointless, again, to have a second health bar, and then your Ritualist skills are made that it goes through the Shroud to heal your actual health bar. It's cool, somewhat unique that the Ritualist can only do this. Actually, it's not the only Ritualist, because you can do this as Reaper technically, because Reaper can also heal itself, you know. Let me just quickly, you know, show it. Let me just, no, hold on. I'm just summon a golem for it here real quick. Like you can see that I will keep taking damage, but if I, you know, do some damage, then it will just heal me. Like Soul Eater basically heals me as well. So it's not extremely unique. It's obviously not gigantic healing, but it does add up depending on what, you know, how much damage you do and whatnot. So yeah, I genuinely don't think that Spirit Shroud should be a Shroud, where it's like a second health bar again, and it should just be a resource that we can use. I get it. I get the argument that like, oh, but then it's just like Scourge and Harbinger, like I mentioned. But what's the problem with that though? Why is it a problem? Like, it's just a different way of having Shroud, you know? It doesn't, like, just because Core Necro and Reaper has it as a second health bar, that fits, because Core Necro doesn't really have much, like, it doesn't have healing and self-defenses that much, you know, apart from the Shroud. That's why it has a Shroud. Reaper as well. Reaper doesn't have, like, the only reason Reaper has high survivability is because it has a second health bar, because of the Shroud. But Scourge, because of barriers, and Harbinger, because of shitload of healing, pardon my wording, it doesn't really need that much, because you have different sustains on those, and so do you have on Ritualist as well. So what's the point? Why do you just pump both self-sustain and a second health bar into Ritualist, when just the self-sustain will be more than enough, which it already has, in my opinion. Maybe not for the DPS part, but that could be worked out again with a trait as well, if you change that. You could make it that something, whenever, like, you know, like, let's say this could make it that your Anguish or something, or like whichever soul twisting, your anguish skill, or like your anguish, has some life steal for you. So you have higher sustain, but it also drains more, more life force percentage for you, because it's more focusing on anguish. But they could also make these to be so that each of these like an extra 1%, if you pick them. But in that case, probably the baseline should be like 1%, and then each trait line like adds 1% extra, which ends up being like 4% for a certain spirit, or like kind of moved around. I hope that if you hear this, you kind of understand what I'm trying to mean, that each could have a sort of focus on one spirit, and then baseline each spirit drains 1% life force, but then each trait will immediately increase it by 1% for the specified spirit. Like Spirit's Gift could be, again, because it's more support focused, it could be increasing your preservation from 1% to 2%, and then you pick Empowering Spirits, which could also be more on preservation as well, I guess, and then it increases from 2% to 3% because it's a plus 1%, and then if you go Lingering Spirits, then it puts it from 3% to 4%, and then the others are just draining 1%. If you kind of understand what I mean there, and then you still come off with about 6%, which would still yield you like a baseline 15 seconds. But I don't want it to be like too strong either, or like too strong of a drain either, where you start with like baseline 2% or something, and then you have like 5% on one, and then 2% on others. That's like 9% per second, which is a lot. That will end up with about 11 seconds, which is just doesn't feel too right. But it could be adjusted, with like many other things, or like higher baseline, and maybe the others just add like 0.5% drain or such. I'm just throwing ideas, I don't want to think about numbers that highly, because I am not qualified for that personally. Neither for this all. I'm just suggesting ideas. And then the others could be like, this could be like more anguish themed or something for damage, because this is all based on damage. And then these could be more Wanderlust, which is because Wanderlust to me always feels like more of a utility, like a CC and sort of a utility with the fear and whatnot, and it could do different things. Like I still think that Wanderlust could do some niche boon or something as well. If you pick a trait like if this Spirit Remedy wouldn't be there, and instead you have something for Wanderlust, where Wanderlust does like provide something for you, or maybe does an extra condition on enemies or something, and then just increases the drain on that too. Like I feel like that could be so much more creative, but obviously without testing it or knowing in reality how it will work out, it feels too drastic. So obviously I don't expect any of this thing, like any of this, to probably ever even make it as an idea for them. So they will probably very much not even consider such. But please, CMC and Triggs, if you ever listen to this, I wouldn't mind it though. Just give it a thought, please. But apart from that, let me check quickly my little bullet points. Oh yeah, by the way, I won't mention, if some people don't know, just to mention, because I didn't really mention it in the guide itself, but Zirion's weapon is a AoE stun break, by the way, not just a stun break for you. It's a AoE stun break, as far as I understand, along with the 1 stack of stability. Apart from that, yeah, not much else, and I've been going for an hour, so I guess that's more than enough to ramble about. So those are the main ideas, thoughts, and sort of hopes for Ritualist I have, and suggestions to give. Obviously, I am expecting absolutely like nothing, like beyond nothing, but who knows? Like I have the freedom to give opinions and thoughts about it, and to voice my opinion and everything about Ritualist, because I really enjoy it and I really love it. But I feel like they could really make it not okay. Obviously, I don't know if it will be better. Nobody knows until that will be until it will be tested or such. But I can do this, so why not? I can just talk about it and just mention things and suggest things, and then just see where it will go eventually, and say it is good at this, but at baseline, the only thing I am 100% asking for, please give us a Dismiss Spirits. I don't care if you change nothing about Ritualist and everything stays as is, but please give us a button here, a F5, that stops lingering spirits effect on us when you have lingering spirits, and just actually like dismisses the spirits and the effect of it, so we stop draining the life force whenever we want to. Like just do that. I don't want it to explode the spirits or do boons or whatever. I don't care. Just a single 1 second cooldown, dismiss spirits, and that's it. Just a simple one. That's it. Just end the effect of this and just dismiss the spirits. So that's pretty much it. Well, I won't say hope you enjoyed it, because this is just me rambling, but if you have any more ideas or thoughts about Ritualist, please feel free to put it in the comments. If you agree with any points, honestly, you don't have to agree. This is not about agreement or like whether or not I'm right or anything. But if you like find any of my ideas kind of like all right or such, then you can say that too. If you want to criticize it as well, obviously you can say that too. There's no problem with that. I'm just throwing ideas out there. But yeah, that's basically it. Hope you guys been through this entire 1 hour plus probably video. So see you guys next time with some other video that I can do about GW2. Have a good one, guys. Bye.